Hello there, a very good evening and welcome to another edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Charlotte Benedict for the Newsfirst team.
And I'm Naveksha Gunasekara, and here are your headlines for tonight.
The headlines on Newsfirst.
Sri Lanka envoy Hanif Yusuf meets US Under-Secretary Jacob Hellberg to boost investment ties. Praja Shakti program launched nationwide. Projects for 14,000 village divisions. Special trial at bar to resume central bank bond scam under public property charges. Court grants Gotabaya Rajapaksa permission for online testimony in Lalit Kugan case. Is SJB facing internal crisis? Senior members acknowledge party tensions. Bus operators demand fuel subsidy or fare hike amid rising costs. Rough seas, warning issued. Fishermen advised to avoid going out.
On to those stories in detail now. President Andrukumara Dissanayake, Special Envoy on Investment, Hanif Yusuf, is currently in Washington, D.C., where he has begun bilateral discussions aimed at strengthening Sri Lanka's economic partnerships.
As part of his visit, Yusuf met today with Jacob Hellberg, the U.S. Under-Secretary of State for Economic Affairs.
Jacob Hellberg, who plays a direct role in overseeing U.S. policy on economic security, artificial intelligence, semiconductor ecosystems and global supply chains, holds key responsibilities in shaping international economic engagement for the United States. Speaking following the meeting, Special Envoy Hanif Yusuf said the discussions were both in-depth and forward-looking, focusing on enhancing economic cooperation between Sri Lanka and the United States. In a statement, he noted that the talks centered on Sri Lanka's next phase of economic growth, as well as the potential role of U.S. investment and technology in critical sectors such as ports, logistics, energy and data centers. Here's an extract from the statement made by President Andrukumara Dissanayaka's Special Envoy on Investment, Hanif Yusuf. Excerpt.
If there is any lesson our 2022 economic crisis has taught us, it is that our path forward lies in openness and a more confident engagement with the world. For that, President Andrukumara Dissanayake is committed to building a more open, competitive and investment-ready economy. As the President's Special Envoy for Foreign Investment, my role is to tell that story clearly to our partners, investors and friends. For too long, Sri Lanka has been overlooked because of our small size. But despite our limitations, we have always punched above our weight. Our people, our institutions and our ability to connect regions give us a significance that goes well beyond our geography or population. I was encouraged by Under-Secretary Hellberg's understanding of the opportunities before us and his interests in working with Sri Lanka as we fast-track our investment and growth. The United States and Sri Lanka have an opportunity to build a stronger economic partnership based not only on commercial interests but also on our shared values and mutual confidence in each other.
End of excerpt. Yusuf also confirmed that Under-Secretary Jacob Hellberg was invited to visit Sri Lanka during the meeting as both sides look to further strengthen bilateral engagement and explore investment opportunities. Meanwhile, 10 TH-57C Ranger multi-role helicopters granted by the United States government have arrived in the country by sea. These helicopters are a grant by the government of the United States of America to the Sri Lanka Air Force. The addition of these new aircraft is a significant contribution towards strengthening the overall fleet while fulfilling the long-term operational requirements of the Sri Lanka Air Force. The helicopters that arrived in the island are currently being assembled at the Ratmalana Air Force Base.
The Praja Shakti 1000 Villages 1000 Projects program was launched today.
The inaugural ceremony was held in Pinbala.
The Praja Shakti program is being implemented simultaneously across 1,000 Gram Niladhari divisions covering all 341 divisional secretariat divisions. Projects were launched today at multiple locations with the participation of public representatives and government officials from the respective areas. The primary objective of the Praja Shakti 1000 Villages, 1000 Projects program is to eliminate poverty among rural communities. Development proposals identified by community development councils must be submitted to the divisional development committees, after which selected projects will be implemented under this program. An allocation of 25,000 million rupees has been set aside for the implementation of the identified projects, and as part of the launch, 1,000 projects were initiated across the island today. The main launch event was held under the patronage of Minister of Rural Development, Social Security and Community Empowerment, Dr. Upali Pannilage, marking the commencement of the Ambagaspitiya Pingwala Irrigation Canal Rehabilitation Project in Mahara.
Through this program, at least one development project will be implemented this year in each of the more than 14,000 villages in our country. Therefore, it is not just 1,000 projects in 1,000 villages, but a national movement that will deliver a minimum of 14,000 projects across 14,000 villages. Through the provincial councils, more than 70,000 million has been allocated in this year's budget with the aim of accelerating rural development.
The Colombo District program was launched in Piliandala Nan Pamunuahamugeyaya with the participation of Prime Minister Dr. Harani Amarasuriya through the commencement of a project to cultivate abandoned paddy lands.
We have begun a transformative journey in 2024. To make that transformation successful, we need the government, public officials and the people. We cannot move forward on separate paths. We must move as one on a common journey with a shared goal. By listening to each other, engaging in discussions and sharing ideas, we are bringing everyone together to move forward. Projects such as this help build that unity and shared hope. This is not just a simple project. It carries a big vision, a big expectation, and a big dream.
The Praja Shakti program was also launched today in several other areas, including Galigamuma, Kandy, and Badola. Projects were also initiated today in the northern and eastern provinces. Construction work commenced today at a drying facility in Ganeshpuram, Kilinochi. Similarly, a drying facility project was initiated today in Marapalam village in Batiklo. The Praja Shakti program includes initiatives aimed at improving the production economy, enhancing livelihoods and ensuring food security. A total allocation of 25 billion rupees has been earmarked for the program, with plans to implement 25,932 projects nationwide.
In line with the order issued by the Supreme Court yesterday, the Attorney General's Department states that a new trial at bar will be appointed to recommence proceedings under the Public Property Act in relation to the 2016 Central Bank bond scam. It has been revealed that 3 new trial at bar panels are expected to be appointed, with this case scheduled to be heard before one of those courts. The case, which was previously being heard before a trial at bar, was halted in 2021 after the court considered preliminary objections raised by the defence.
Now, the defence, in their preliminary objections, argued that since Perpetual Treasuries is a company involved in the transactions, legal action could not be instituted against a company under the Public Property Act. However, following an appeal filed by the Attorney General, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court ruled yesterday that a company, in fact, can be prosecuted and tried under the Public Property Act. What exactly is the central bank bond scam, and what impact did these transactions have on the people of Sri Lanka? Here is a detailed report.
What are government bonds? The government often has to borrow money to meet its short-term and long-term financial requirements for public spending. Treasury bonds are a mechanism used by the government to borrow money on a long-term basis. The government provides a guarantee that the principal amount will be repaid along with accumulated interest. The central bank holds the responsibility of issuing bonds based on the financial requirements of the government. Bonds can be purchased directly from the central bank only by registered primary dealers who hold special authorization. Anyone else wishing to purchase treasury bonds can do so from these primary dealers in the secondary market. What is the bond scam? Discussions surrounding bond scams gained significant traction from 2015 onwards. Serious allegations have been leveled against the bond issuances that took place on 3 separate occasions between 2015 and 2017 to meet government financial needs. Let's look at them one by one. What happened in 2015? In 2015, the public elected a new political force following allegations that the 10-year regime of Mahinda Rajapaksa was destroying funds meant for public benefit through corrupt deals to enrich a select few. The opposition forces at the time, united, brought out the General Secretary of the then-ruling Sri Lanka Freedom Party and formed a political alliance known as the Yahapalaniya government, or the Government of Good Governance. The Yahapalaniya government came to power on the 8th of January 2015. Maithripala Sirisena became the president and Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed Prime Minister. Arjuna Mahendran, a Singaporean citizen, was appointed governor of the central bank, despite opposition from the majority of the Yahapalaniya government's cabinet. Exactly 50 days after the Yahapalaniya government took office, the first bond scam occurred. What was the first bond scam? A decision had been made to raise funds via a bond issuance to pay contracting companies that had undertaken road development projects during the Rajapaksa administration. This decision was made during a breakfast meeting. The meeting with Ranil Wickremesinghe was attended by several ministers, the then chairman of the United National Party and Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran. The discussion centered around the need for 15 billion rupees to pay the contractors. Following the breakfast meeting, a bond issuance took place the very next day, on the 27th of February 2015. Primary dealers were notified that the central bank intended to borrow 1 billion rupees and the bond issuance commenced. At the time, bond issuances were conducted through an auction system. Primary dealers would submit competitive bids indicating the volume of bonds they could purchase and their preferred interest rates to secure the required funds. While the auction was underway, Arjuna Mahendran entered the auction floor in his capacity as central bank governor. He inspected the bids that had been submitted. No previous central bank governor had ever intervened in this manner during an active auction. Taking the bidding documents into his hands, Arjuna Mahendran gave instructions regarding the value at which the auction should be capped. Following Mahendran's instructions, the auction officials were forced to accept bids for a staggering 10 billion rupee bond issuance. Accepting bids for 10 billion rupees after initially announcing a requirement for only 1 billion rupees was highly unusual. Subsequently, investigations revealed that within this 10 billion rupees, the highest volume of bids had been submitted by a company named Perpetual Treasuries. They had submitted these bids at significantly higher interest rates than other primary dealers. The conflict of interest. Perpetual Treasuries was a primary dealer company owned by Arjuna Aloysius, the son-in-law of the then central bank governor Arjuna Mahendran. Allegations arose that Arjuna Mahendran had leaked inside information about the auction to his son-in-law and manipulated the process. The father-in-law had acted to benefit the son-in-law. Reports from the Presidential Commission of Inquiry, the Auditor General, 2 COPE committee reports, and the Criminal Investigation Department inquiries revealed further shocking details. It was Ranil Wickremesinghe who had instructed Arjuna Mahendran to use the auction method for the 27th of February bond issuance. Armed with that instruction, Mahendran entered the auction and personally decided the volume of bids to accept. Consequently, the largest volume of bids at the highest interest rates went to his son-in-law's company. Furthermore, it was revealed that other primary dealer companies and a state bank had placed bids on behalf of Perpetual Treasuries. These entities placed low-interest bids for themselves while placing high-interest bids on behalf of Perpetual Treasuries. What happened next? Perpetual Treasuries, having acquired these bonds at high interest rates in the primary market, then sold them to the Employees Provident Fund, or the EPF, in the secondary market. The EPF consists of funds accumulated from monthly salary deductions of private sector employees meant to sustain them during retirement. Since the EPF is also authorized by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka to directly submit bids in primary auctions for government securities, it did not need to buy anything from Aloysius. The EPF could have purchased bonds directly from the central bank auction, securing a massive benefit for the fund. However, because of this stock of bonds acquired to benefit Arjun Aloysius's perpetual treasuries, the EPF suffered an immediate loss of 8 billion rupees at one point. This loss continues to compound day by day. Furthermore, due to domestic debt restructuring, the returns expected from this stock of bonds were reduced even further. This transaction dealt a devastating blow to the EPF, sabotaging a fund built over years of hard work by citizens trying to secure a comfortable retirement. The damage caused by the 27th of February 2015 bond scam does not stop there. At one point, market interest rates spiked by about 3% solely due to this transaction. It is important to note that the citizens of this country will have to bear the consequences of this crime until the year 2048, as these specific bonds are scheduled to mature only then. What happened in 2016? While the entire country's attention was fixed on the 2015 bond scam, similar transactions were repeated. Two more transactions took place on the 29th of March and the 31st of March 2016. Prior to these dates, the then Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake had summoned top officials of state banks on both days leading up to the auctions. He instructed them to submit low-interest bids at the bond auction under the guise of controlling interest rates. During the March 29th and March 31st auctions, bond transactions occurred in a manner that heavily favored perpetual treasuries, just like before. The state banks acting as primary dealers later stated that they had to incur severe losses by acting on the minister's instructions. The exact total loss from these two bond transactions has still not been fully calculated. What is the situation now? The then central bank governor Arjuna Mahendran fled the country. His friend Ranil Wickremesinghe claimed at the time that Mahendran had merely left to attend a wedding and would return soon. Mahendran has the day before the court prepared under Chairman Gunasekara was due to be presented, Parliament was prorogued, thereby stripping the report of its legal validity. During the COPE investigation under Chairman Sunil Handunetti, a group of UNP MPs added footnotes to the report, creating widespread confusion. The report and annexures of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry will only be accessible to the public in 2048, as they have been locked away confidentially in the National Archives for 30 years. Ranil Wickremesinghe appointed a three-member committee from his own party to compile a report, which exonerated Arjuna Mahendran and claimed no wrongdoing occurred during the bond auctions. Maithripala Sirisena later revealed that during his tenure as president, he had signed 21,000 documents in an attempt to extradite Arjuna Mahendran. Nevertheless, a criminal investigation and judicial process are still ongoing. The public continues to watch this process with hope, because every single citizen is still paying for these scams. The ultimate bankruptcy of the country, the high prices we pay for a litre of fuel, a unit of electricity, and the high interest rates on loans taken to build our homes all contain a hidden penalty stemming from these crimes. We are paying our bills alongside the cost of this corruption.
Amid the discourse on fuel prices, as citizens continue the impact of the various frauds and the damage that was caused to the employees' provident funds, loans and saving interest rates linked to past corruption and fraud. Meanwhile, several bus owner associations speaking at a media briefing today said that bus fares should also be revised in line with any increase in fuel prices.
Today, the industry has reached a point where bus owners do not have enough fuel to operate services, and many are unable to even afford fuel. Accordingly, we have submitted a proposal to the government. Instead of continuously revising bus fares when fuel prices keep fluctuating, a subsidy should be introduced to ensure fares remain stable. We are making two requests. Firstly, we are now operating under the QR system and have been allocated a quota to operate buses. Based on that quota, a subsidy of around 25 rupees should be provided. This should be implemented for a short period of around 20 to 25 days. It is not a long-term requirement, and we also have holidays within this period. We are requesting that the July revision be reconsidered. The QR subsidy should be reduced by around 25 rupees for about 25 days. Otherwise, if there is a 5% fuel increase, bus fares should be increased by around 4 to 5%, specifically for diesel services, to cover up operational losses. This is necessary for us to sustain services at least for a month.
Why were fuel prices increased? This question was raised by journalists at today's cabinet media briefing, where the cabinet spokesperson provided detailed clarification.
Due to the ongoing conflict in the Middle East region, the prices of both crude oil and refined fuel have increased globally. Under current purchasing costs, the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation is incurring a loss of 358 rupees per litre of diesel. RM Parks is incurring a loss of 341 rupees per litre of diesel. Sinopec is incurring a loss of 186 rupees, and IOC is incurring a loss of 194 rupees on diesel. For petrol, the losses are 23 rupees per litre for the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, 157 rupees for RM Parks, 29 rupees for Sinopec and 38 rupees for IOC. These companies, including the Petroleum Corporation, have been selling fuel while incurring these losses. In April, considering the increase in global oil prices, we provided relief measures. For this, 57,000 million rupees was allocated from the Treasury. Accordingly, a subsidy of 100 rupees per litre for diesel and 20 rupees per litre for petrol has been provided by the Treasury. While the Treasury allocated 57,000 million rupees, these companies also absorbed part of the cost over the past 3 months. Globally, many countries have incurred fuel prices at different rates over the past 3 months, March, April and May. For example, the Philippines increased petrol prices by 72.5%. Myanmar increased diesel by 89% and petrol by 89.1%. Even the United States, despite being a producer, increased diesel prices by 43.7% and petrol by 42.1%. In Sri Lanka, we have increased petrol 95 octane by 45.59%, petrol 92 octane by 48.12%, diesel by around 44% to 44.8%, and super diesel by 45.29%. That is how fuel prices have been adjusted in Sri Lanka. Under the current global conditions, countries worldwide have either increased prices, reduced them after increases, or continued increasing them. While the Treasury has absorbed 57,000 million rupees and companies have absorbed part of the cost, the remaining increase had to be passed on to customers.
Sri Lanka must undertake deep and sustained structural reforms to break free from its long-standing middle-income trap and transition into an upper-middle-income economy. International Monetary Fund's mission chief for Sri Lanka made this comment in an exclusive interview with Newsfirst Zulfik Farzan.
Now, even historically, Sri Lanka has always struggled to move beyond the middle-income level status. Now, what structural reforms are most critical if the country is to transition to an upper middle-income country?
Yeah, Zulfik, I think this is probably the most important question because it goes well beyond the here and now, and it's all about what the country is trying to achieve. So lifting the country's growth potential and climbing to upper middle income, as you said, status requires deep structural reforms that need to go to the heart of addressing productivity and bringing in more investment. So the key priorities include improving the business climate, encouraging private investment and exports. This means simplifying regulations, strengthening property rights, enabling more competition, and obviously attracting higher investment. FDI, for example, is crucial because Sri Lanka's FDI flows remain relatively low or quite low, so which are impeding technology transfer and job creation. And alongside that, obviously, a discussion that we've had recently in the last year as well about the economic diversification of the country, meaning expanding beyond a narrow export base of textiles and agriculture to high value-added sectors. And these calls for enhanced skills and innovation. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done, and we will continue working with the authorities on this. In addition, strengthening governance, reducing corruption vulnerabilities, these are all important elements that improve investor confidence. I would be remiss not to mention modernizing the electricity sector is very important. The amended Electricity Act has paved the way to going toward that way, but more needs to be done on improving efficiency and reliability. Infrastructure investment is also very important, and this is upgraded through the new PFM, public financial management practices, to ensure that there is efficient public spending and better project outcomes. And again, I will think there is a lot of good work that has been done. The authorities know what to do. They get a lot of good advice from us and other development partners. And these reforms collectively will help break historical constraints and set a foundation for higher, more inclusive growth. But there needs to be goodwill and good efforts in that regard.
As financial fraud schemes continue to grow in complexity, Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe has delivered a clear and timely message to the public. Stay alert, think critically, and act responsibly. He was speaking at the launch of the program Be Scam Proof, organized by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Newsfirst's Viara Veerakon filed this report.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka launched a nationwide movement aimed at protecting financial consumers from fraud and theft, marking the commencement of the Financial Consumer Protection Month 2026 under the theme Be Scam Proof. The month-long awareness campaign is designed to strengthen financial literacy across the country while equipping both local consumers and Sri Lankans overseas with the knowledge needed to identify, avoid and respond to increasingly sophisticated financial scams.
We live in extraordinary times for financial services. Digital banking, that's expanding rapidly, has placed the power of an entire branch into the palm of every citizen's hand. Social media has brought a vast world of products and services to our fingerprints, including financial ones, either the fraudulent ones and also genuine ones. Yet financial fraud in Sri Lanka is shaped by aspects beyond digital banking or high internet or mobile penetration. Financial fraud today is the result of deeper, more persistent challenges such as the uneven flow of reliable financial information, the limited reach of consumer awareness efforts beyond urban centers, and simply the fact that a large portion of Sri Lankans continue to remain unaware of what is legal and what is regulated and what is outright fraudulent. It is in this void between legal boundaries set by the regulators like us and lack of awareness of the public that fraudsters continue to operate. They use this gap in the knowledge for them to operate. Both the presence of technology and the absence of information are being exploited simultaneously. Hence, we are witnessing two extremes. At once, population who do not know how to distinguish licensed finance companies from an illegal scheme, and at the same time, internet-savvy urban populations who click on the fraudulent links and share OTPs. These are the common issues, especially now facing not only urban population but also others, especially the inability to understand or recognize licensed finance companies and illegal schemes.
The initiative focuses on raising awareness of emerging threats within the evolving financial landscape, where digital transactions, fintech platforms, and cross-border financial activities have created new vulnerabilities for consumers.
The problem is not unique to Sri Lanka, that we will understand. This is across the world. regulators and policymakers are confronting the very same challenge. Global evidence, including the work of the World Bank and the Financial Stability Board, the global institutions, demonstrates that financial fraud and consumer abuse not only erode household wealth but also weaken trust in the financial system and undermine broad economic recovery and the resilience. That's where we also have a responsibility to protect and safeguard the trust in the financial system and also broader economic recovery and resilience. In developing economies in particular, the damage is asymmetric. It falls disproportionately on those with fewest resources to absorb it. Pyramid schemes, deceptive high return investment schemes, illegal deposit taking operations, and sophisticated digital scams do not merely cause individual financial loss, they destroy the accumulated savings of entire communities and set back poverty reduction by years. People who are getting into these scams take a long time to recover.
Central Bank of Sri Lanka Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe called for heightened public vigilance and collective action to combat rising financial fraud.
Question suspicious promises. Verify before you trust and act responsibly. This is essential to strengthening both individual security and public confidence in the system as a whole. So the way forward, sustained commitment and collective action.
The campaign will distribute materials building awareness such as posts in all mediums, digital feature articles, digital media posts and articles from senior CBSL figures, downloadable posts on the website and awareness videos in the storytelling format that caters to various finance-related scams.
The Colombo Fort Magistrates Court issued summons on President's Counsel Renzi Arasukularatne and his junior counsel Udara Muhandiramge, ordering them to appear before court to provide evidence in connection with the death of former Sri Lankan Airlines Chief Executive Officer Kapila Chandrasena.
The order was made as part of the ongoing magisterial inquiry into the circumstances surrounding Chandrasena's death, with proceedings continuing for the 7th day before Colombo Fort Magistrate Pasan Amarasena.
During earlier proceedings, the President of the Bar Association of Sri Lanka, Rajiv Amarasuriya, appearing to safeguard the rights of the two attorneys, had requested the court to consider whether it was necessary to summon them as witnesses. However, when the case was taken up today, the magistrate stated that under Section 3705 of the Code of Criminal Procedure, a decision had been made to call the two lawyers to provide evidence in the inquiry. At the same time, the magistrate clarified that under Supreme Court rules, the witnesses are entitled to legal privilege, meaning they are not obliged to disclose any confidential advice or information exchanged between the deceased and his legal representatives. The inquiry into the matter is set to continue, with further evidence scheduled to be recorded on the 5th of May.
Former Defence Secretary and ex-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has been granted permission by court to appear and provide evidence via an online platform in the case related to the abduction and disappearance of Lalit Kumar Veeraraj and Kugan Muhandiran. This decision was made when the case was taken up before the Jaffna Magistrates Court.
Notices had previously been issued to Gotabaya Rajapaksa in 2019, requiring him to appear in court to provide evidence in the case filed by the relatives of Lalit Kumar Veeraraj and Kugan Muruganandan, who went missing in Jaffna on the 9th of December 2011. However, he has not appeared before the Jaffna Magistrates Court up to now. When the case was called on the 6th of February, Rajapaksa's lawyers requested the court to allow him to give evidence via online proceedings. Accordingly, the court granted permission for the request today. The case is scheduled to be taken up again on the 19th.
Of course, that story once again, former Defence Secretary and ex-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has been granted permission by court to appear and provide evidence via an online platform in the case related to the abduction and disappearance of Lalit Kumar Veeraraj and Kugan Muruganandan. This decision was made when the case was taken up before the Jaffna Magistrates Court. Moving on to more local news. Opposition political parties are currently holding frequent discussions under the leadership of Professor G.L. Peiris. The notable feature is that the Samagijana Balavegaya, the main opposition in parliament, is not participating in these discussions. Following a discussion held last night under the chairmanship of GL Piris, political party representatives stated that the real opposition is now outside the main parliamentary opposition. What is actually happening to the opposition?
Who is most suitable to lead opposition politics?
A group including members from the United National Party, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, and those who broke away from the Podujana Peramuna attended the discussion held by Professor G.L. Piris last night as well.
මොනබරුද විපක්ෂයක් තියෙනවා විපක්ෂයෙන් ගාන අඩු වුණා. හොදගෙන ගියේ. යන්තම් වල්පැල දෙක ඉතුරුනේ. මායි චාමරයි. විපක්ෂය විදිහට පාර්ලිමේන්තුව හඬක් නගන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් ඒ හින්දානේ ඒකාබද්ධ විපක්ෂයක් හැදෙන්නේ. විපක්ෂය හරියට හඬ නගනවා පාර්ලිමේන්තුවල ඒකාබද්ධ විපක්ෂයක් මේ එළිය හැදෙයිද? කියන්නේ විපක්ෂය වැඩක් නැද්ද? විපක්ෂයදී වැඩක් තියෙනවා එකව කරගන්න ඕනේ. දැන් අද රට පිළිගන්න විපක්ෂයේ ඒකාබද්ධ විපක්ෂ තමයි ජන බලවේගයේ විපක්ෂකාරීතු කරන්නේ නැද්ද? ඉතින් එහෙම නම් එළිය විපක්ෂයක් හැදෙන්නේ නැහැ නේද? සජිත් බෑ මේක. බැරිකම නෙමෙයි ඉතින් එතුමාගේ තියෙන ක්‍රමවේදය ඉතින් එච්චර ඉතින් බැරි හින්දානේ මාත් අයින් වුනේ නේද?
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramana's Thissakutti Arachi heavily criticised opposition leader Sajith Premadasa yesterday. Today, Niroshan Paduka responded to that criticism on behalf of the Samagijana Balavegaya.
People wonder if Sajith Premadasa is indeed a son of President Ranasinghe Premadasa. Sajith Premadasa does not possess even 0% of Ranasinghe Premadasa's concepts or work ethic. So, we don't even need to talk about it. When you look at the childish antics Sajith Premadasa pulls, as I always say, Sajith Premadasa might have the physical stature, but he is not someone with a big brain to think big. This only shows the helplessness of the Podujana Peramuna. So, I'm not going to talk about that. Everyone from Anura Kumara to Mahinda Rajapaksa and Nama Rajapaksa knows that Sajith Premadasa is the son of Ranasinghe Premadasa. The only person in Sri Lanka who doesn't know this is Kutti, Tissa Kutti, only him. Therefore, I don't understand why Nama Rajapaksa is carrying such a low-tier politician on his shoulders. But this is not my fear. He says that when Nama becomes president in the future, he will apparently be the acting president. May God help Nama. If he was slated to become president in 20 years, he won't even be able to become president in 45 years. The unofficial president? How nice. We aren't going to talk about Nama Rajapaksa. If I start talking about Nama Rajapaksa, I'm also a guy who played rugby. I can talk about the Carlton Sports Network deals. I can talk about racing cars near the Dalanda Maligawa. Yes, I can expose various transactions that took place in Sri Lanka, but we won't stoop to that level. We didn't talk about how Nama Rajapaksa went to Batiklo and met Pillian after the Easter attacks. We didn't talk about any of those.
Journalists questioned Niroshan Paduka, who spoke on behalf of Sajith Premadasa, whether he even holds a position as a constituency organizer.
සංවිධායකමක් කරන්නේ නැතුවනේ ඒක ෆුල් ටයිම් ජොබ් එකක්නේ. ඒක තියෙනවා දූෂණ නිරෝධී එක තියෙනවා. ඒක දැන් මේ ආසන සංවිධායකමක් වන්නේ නැතුව ඔබතුමාට ඉදිරි ආණ්ඩුවක තැනක් හම්බෙයි කියලා ඔබතුමා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවද? මට මගේ නායක විශ්වාසෙනේ. ඔයා ෂෙයාමාකට් එකේ සල්ලි දාන්නේ නැහනේ ඩ්‍රොප් වෙන්න ප්‍රයිස් එක. මට කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්කේ තව ඕනනම් මට ආසන සංවිධායකම නායකතුමාට කතා කරලා ගන්න පුළුවන්. මම මේකේ පරම සමාජිකයෙක්. හරිද? මම පාර්ලිමේන්තු මන්ත්‍රියෙක් කියලා හිටියනම් මම දිස්ත්‍රික්ක නායකකම ගන්නත් පුළුවන්.
Meanwhile, MP Nalin Bandara also held a press conference today, stating that there are internal issues within the Samagijana Balavegaya.
මේම පක්ෂ අභ්‍යන්තරයේ යම් ගැටලු තියෙනවා නැතිනවා එහෙම තමයි තියෙනවා මම සම්බන්ධව මම කියන එක සුසු නැහැ මහලේකම්තුමාට යම් ගැටලු ගැන අපි දැනුවත් කරලා තියෙනවා පක්ෂයක් විදිහට අපි ඉස්සරහට යන්න ඕන පක්ෂයක් විදිහට අපි ශක්තිමත් වෙන්න ඕන පක්ෂයක් විදිහට අපි අලුත් වෙන්න ඕන කියන ස්ථාවරයේ ඉන්නේ ඉතින් මගේ යම් ගැටලු පිළිබඳව මම මහලේකම්තුමාට සහ නායකතුමාට ලිඛිතව දැනුම් දීලා තියෙනවා ඉතින් ඒවට විසඳුම් ලැබෙනකම් මම බලන් ඉන්නවා.
Yasas Hevage has officially assumed duties as the chairman of the Industrial Development Board, taking charge of one of Sri Lanka's longest established enterprise development institutions, which marks 60 years of service to the country's industrial sector.
Hevage brings close to 2 decades of experience in banking, finance, business strategy, entrepreneurship development, sales and marketing, and sports tourism. Prior to his appointment, he served as the private secretary to the Deputy Minister of Industry and Entrepreneurship Development. He is also actively involved in several national-level initiatives aimed at strengthening Sri Lanka's entrepreneurship and SME ecosystem, including the SME Nexus Initiative, the National SME Strategy Framework Development Team, and the Institutional Transformation Leadership Team, supporting the establishment of the proposed Entrepreneurship and Industry Transformation Authority. In addition to his policy and institutional work, Hevage is recognized for his contributions to entrepreneurship development and executive coaching, having worked with thousands of entrepreneurs, business owners, executives, and professionals across Sri Lanka.
Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Santosh Jha toured various parts of Jaffna today.
Indian High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Santosh Jha visited the Kirimalai Naguleswaram temple today and engaged in religious observances. During this visit, he also inaugurated a drinking water purification project constructed with financial assistance from the Government of India. The Governor of the Northern Province, Nagalingam Vedanayagan, and the Consul General of India in Jaffna, S.I. Murali, among others, were present at the occasion. Meanwhile, Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha also visited the Achuveli Industrial Estate today during his tour of Jaffna. He inspected the industrial estate, which was constructed by the Government of India, and inquired about its current operations. Following this, the Indian High Commissioner participated in an event held to award Government of India scholarships to students of the University of Jaffna. During the event, scholarships were presented by the High Commissioner to 100 selected first-year students representing all faculties. The event was presided over by the Acting Vice-Chancellor and Dean of the Faculty of Arts of the University of Jaffna, Nagamuthu Pradiparaja. Indian Consul General S.I. Murali, lecturers and students were among those in attendance. In a concurrent development, Indian High Commissioner Santosh Jha also visited the Jaffna Public Library today. During the visit, he paid tribute by placing a garland on the statue of former Indian President Abdul Kalam located in the library's Indian corner. He also donated a consignment of books to the public library. The Mayor of Jaffna and the Jaffna Municipal Commissioner, among others, were present at the event.
With a commitment to quenching the thirst of many, Gammadda will launch a new community project tomorrow in the Kurunegala district.
Residents of the Diulagoda village in Ganevaval, located within the Nikavarate Divisional Secretariat Division of the Kurunegala district, have been facing severe difficulties due to the lack of access to safe drinking water for many years. Following a request made to Gammadda by the renowned Venerable Katnurve Sri Dhammathera to provide clean drinking water to the community, plans have been made to construct a reverse osmosis water purification system on the premises of the Ganevava temple. Construction of the project is scheduled to commence tomorrow with funding provided through the Gammadda Public Fund. The project will be implemented with the technical support of the Sri Lanka Navy and carried out under the guidance of the Ministry of Health.
Weather first.
The Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources has issued a notice stating that the coastal sea areas around the island could become rough or very rough within the next 24 hours, making fishing activities extremely risky.
Newsfirst Hashini Patirana brings us more details on the weather.
Thank you, Charlene and Naveksha. Now, in your latest weather update, the Department of Meteorology says that wind speeds in the sea areas of the coast extending from Mulitiv to Kankasanture, Mana, Putlam, Colombo, Gaul and Hambantota to Potuville could increase up to 50 to 60 kilometers per hour at times. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology also forecasts heavy rainfall of over 100 millimeters in some places within the western Sabragamua provinces as well as in the Gaul, Mathura, Kandy and Nuwara Eliya districts. Now, the department further notes that an increase in rainfall in the southwestern parts of the island along with enhanced wind speeds across the country is expected from tomorrow over the next few days. Additionally, showers and thunder showers will occur at times in the western Sabragamua and also northwestern provinces and in the Gaul, Mathura, Kandy and Nuwara Eliya districts.
Clashes have continued in southern Lebanon despite reports that both Israel and Hezbollah have agreed to a US-brokered plan for a partial ceasefire. Earlier, US President Donald Trump said he had urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to withdraw troops from Lebanon's capital. He also held discussions with representatives of Hezbollah, who reportedly agreed to halt attacks on Israeli forces.
Hashini Patirana now joins us with the latest developments.
Thank you, Naviksha and Shalan. Once again, now in the latest development coming in from the war in the Middle East, the fourth round of Lebanese-Israeli negotiations began at the U.S. State Department headquarters in Washington after the arrival of the participating delegations. Now, this news comes to us from Lebanon's state-run National News Agency. Meanwhile, Spanish Foreign Minister has reaffirmed his country's opposition to the US-Israel war against Iran, saying it will not be pulled into the conflict. Let's take a look at the latest developments.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says 24 commercial vessels have passed through the Strait of Hormuz over the past day. These ships obtained permission and coordinated with the IRGC Navy. United States President Donald Trump said on Monday that Hezbollah and Israel have agreed to halt hostilities in a major de-escalation effort after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered attacks on the southern suburbs of Beirut on Monday. Netanyahu's office on Monday said attacks on Beirut would proceed if Hezbollah continued attacks on Israeli cities, while military operations in southern Lebanon would continue as planned. Bahrain's interim ministry has banned citizens from travelling to Iran and Iraq, citing the ongoing tension in the current security situation. The ministry's statement urged citizens to comply with the decision amid a fragile ceasefire in the Middle East. Lebanon's finance minister Yassin Jabbar has said losses caused by the war have exceeded $20 billion and could climb towards $25 billion if hostilities in Israel continue. The minister warned that the full scale of the economic and social damage may not become clear until the fighting ends and displaced residents begin returning to devastated communities.
Sri Lanka cricket is gearing up for a defining year, blending fresh talent with rising confidence on the global stage. Meanwhile, the ICC Women's T20 World Cup 2026, hosted by England and Wales, is set to begin on the 12th, with the Sri Lanka squad all set for the action.
To tell us more, we now cross over to Sadhuru Ferdinando.
Thank you, Charlotte and Naveksha. Let's take a look at the stories now. Sri Lanka women's cricket captain Shamini Athapaththu says the team is in a positive and a confident mindset ahead of the ICC Women's T20 World Cup 2026. She made these remarks during a media briefing held to update on the team's preparations for the tournament.
The ICC Women's T20 World Cup 2026, hosted by England and Wales, is set to begin on the 12th of June. The Sri Lanka squad and support staff participating in the tournament posed for their official team photograph today at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo.
We have trained well and are expecting to play a good tournament. The first two matches in our group are very important for us. Our initial focus is to perform well in the opening game. We now have many talented young players in the squad, especially Harshita is among the rungs, and Vishmi Gunaratne has returned to the team. We have also recently identified a promising player like Imesha Dulani. I think the team is in a very good mental state. We have now reached a point where we are not dependent on a single player, and that is very important for us.
Sri Lanka is scheduled to play its opening match of the tournament against England on the 12th of June in Birmingham.
In more news from cricket, Sri Lanka Cricket has announced its list of nationally contracted players for the 2026 to 2027 season, with a total of 46 cricketers selected to receive contracts as part of a renewed push to strengthen the country's cricketing structure and performance pipeline.
The contracts will run for a one-year period from the 1st of April 2026 to the 31st of March 2027, providing players with structured support and resources as they prepare for international competition. According to Sri Lanka Cricket,
The players have been categorized into A1, A2, B1, B2, C1 and central contract groups based on a comprehensive evaluation of performance, consistency, fitness, potential and the strategic needs of the national teams across formats. Among the 46 selected players, several new faces have been included. Kamil Mishara, Lasit Cruzpulle, Vijaykant Viyaskant, Isita Vijay Sundara, Vanuja Sahan, Dilum Sudhira and Tharidu Ratnayaka have all secured national contracts for the first time.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News on TV1 for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.